Hi, I'm Gary, and welcome to the galley. In the galley today, we are going to be making a summertime fresh salad. This salad is perfect for potlucks, backyard barbecues, or even just for dinner. You could add some chilled shrimp or chicken and have a nice cool dinner on those hot summer days when you just want something cool. This is a perfect salad to have in the refrigerator to pull out for that. And it just screams summertime and freshness. And one of those is our beautiful little cherry tomatoes just picked up from the farm stand. Aren't they beautiful? We've also got fresh corn cut from the cob and zucchini. So all things summertime, all things fresh. My pasta of choice is Orzo. I love Orzo. It's one of my favorite pastas. It's just a little short grain pasta, but it's like a little sponge, and it just soaks up all of the flavors that you give it. So that is the pasta that we're using today. But the first thing we need to do is we need to get our tomatoes roasting. And there's two ways. You can roast them fast, about 400 degrees for 15-20 minutes, or you can roast them low and slow for about an hour and a half at 275-300. And that is the method that I'm going to choose. If I have the opportunity to do them low and slow, that's what I'm going to do, because the slower that you roast them, the more intense those flavors become, and the more sweetness that you get out of them. They become like little tomato candies. They're just delicious. But it is a hot summer day, so I don't want that oven on for upwards of 2 hours. So I'm going to do mine outside on the grill. So if you're ready to get started, let's get our tomatoes prepped and on the grill so they can start roasting. So the first thing we want to do to get these tomatoes ready is chop up some herbs. And I did about a 1/4 cup of rosemary, oregano, thyme, and basil. And we're going to just chop all of this up and toss our tomatoes in it. And I'm just going to roll my basil up there. This is called a chiffonade, and just give it an initial cut, and then we're just going to put it all together and chop it up. So to these herbs, I'm going to add some fresh ground pepper. I'm doing my 5 blend. I'm going to do my salt, and I'm going to do 2 good pinches of salt. And then I'm going to do some olive oil. And I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of oil. You can use vegetable oil, you can use olive oil, you can use the oil of your choice. If you're doing them at a really high heat, I probably wouldn't use the olive oil. But if you're doing it at a low heat, then you're freer to use the olive oil. And then I'm going to give this a toss and just see how wet it is, and maybe come back with another tablespoon of oil. So I'll start with my 2 and add 1 if it's just not as wet as I would like. So I'm going to come in here and sneak a tablespoon of this out. And I'm going to set that aside. And then to my herb mixture here, we're going to do our tomatoes. So I've got my herb mixture, and I'm adding all my cherry tomatoes, and I'm going through them, and I have already washed them. And the bigger ones I want to cut in half, because I want everything to be about the same size. And the smaller ones will be just fine. The yellow ones that seem to be the bigger ones. And just look at the beauty. And you want to toss them in all of that beautiful herb. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? And to this, I'm going to put in whole 4 cloves of garlic. And then I've got 1 fairly good sized shallot. And I'm just going to cut that in half. And I want to toss all of that too. We're going to cook the garlic and shallot whole. We're going to roast them down. And then we're going to use that as the base for our dressing. So now that we're all beautifully tossed, we're going to go onto our little sheet tray. And I've got my sheet tray here. And I did a piece of parchment paper because that helps me with cleanup. Alright, so on we go. And you see we're leaving some of those herbs in there, and that's okay because we're going to toss our corn and zucchini in there. And then I want to put these into a single layer. And so they're not on top of each other. So just look at that. Does that not look beautiful? So we're ready to go to the oven with these. But in this case, we're going to go outside to the grill. So I'll see you out there. So we're out here at the grill. As you can see, it's a little windy in the marina today. But I've got my grill on. It's coming up to temp. It's not quite there yet. But I do happen to have a 4-burner grill. So I have left one of those burners off. And the other 3 are on. And over the next hour and a half, I'm just going to keep an eye on just to make sure that it's maintaining a temperature of between 275 and 300 degrees. Now, I've put my tomatoes over the burner that's not on, so they're not over direct heat, they're over indirect heat. And I just want to keep my lid closed and just forget about them. Just let that grill just slowly roast them and do its thing. I'm only going to monitor my temperature and make sure my temperature is where I want it. About halfway through, I will give them a toss, just to give them a toss, look at them, and see how they're doing. But in the meantime, while they're doing their thing out here, we're going to go back in the galley. We're going to get our corn, our zucchini ready, and start prepping our pasta and our sauce for our pasta. So while our tomatoes are on the grill, getting all roasted and delicious, I thought I'd bring you out here to see what Billy's up to today. And he is busy painting the frames of our windows. Now these frames have been on here a good 30 years. Billy has sanded them down and now has the laborious task of taping them. And how fun are those round corners, Billy?
So much fun.
So, once sanded and taped, then he has a special marine paint that's suitable for metal and steel. And you can see the outcome is much different. Isn't it beautiful? So he has accomplished, this is the pilot house here. So this is the windows on this side of the starboard side of the pilot house. And he's done the front of the pilot house. And then, once the starboard side is done, onto the port side. So while your tomatoes are out there roasting and getting lovely, we are going to come inside and get our zucchini and our corn ready. And I just want to take a minute. What I do to cut my corn off the cob is get a bowl and just a ramekin, and that way I can cut all the way down, and then the corn is just collected there in the bowl. And for this salad, you want to cut all the way to the cob because we're not looking for cream corn here. We're looking to have corn kernels. I find that generally you get about a half of a cup of corn from an ear of corn. So I did 4 ears of corn so that we could have 2 cups. 2 cups of fresh corn. And I'm going to add this corn to this bowl that we had our tomatoes in, because there's no reason for all of that good flavor in there to go to waste. And to that, we're going to add our zucchini. And I had cut 1, so I would call these medium zucchinis. So I would say 2 medium zucchinis. And I just cut them in these planks because then it helps them to lay flat. And I want to cut these in about a ½ inch dice. And once diced, we will add those, which we probably could go ahead and just add those to our corn over there. So we're going to take that tablespoon of herb mixture that we reserved and add it to the zucchini and corn. And when our tomatoes come off, we're going to add this to that pan. To take the tomatoes out, add this to that pan. We're going to crank that heat up to 400. And we're going to roast this corn and zucchini. I'm going to give this a little oil. Just a little vegetable oil. We're going to roast this corn and zucchini at 400 for 15 minutes. Just so it starts caramelizing, get a little color on it. So here we are, and sometimes when you're cooking, well, you got to resort to plan B. And plan B was the tomatoes in the oven and heating up the boat. But unfortunately, the grill ran out of propane. So we're in the oven, we're in the boat, and we heated it up a bit. But that's all right. But I'm ready to bring my tomatoes out. And they just look beautiful. And I will say, it might have got hot in here. Sure does smell good. So, what we're going to do is, we've got a little food processor here. And those whole roasted shallots, there's 1, so I cut it into half. So, I'm going to put those in. And then I'm going to go through and pick out the garlic. And I have to say, they almost look like the yellow tomatoes. I think I'm missing one. Keep an eye out for it. Oh, there it is. So we've got our roasted tomatoes, our roasted shallots, and I'm going to do a quarter of a cup of these tomatoes. Smush them down. Get a good quarter of a cup full. And in they go. Now this is going to form the base for our dressing for this salad. The rest of these tomatoes I'm going to put over here in my orzo. Now I did 1 cup of dried orzo in salted boiling water, 9 minutes. Chill it down. Add just a little tiny bit of oil to it just so it doesn't stick. And it's ready to go. So, if you're doing this recipe, of course you're going to find the full written recipe at Gary's Galley. The description is going to be below. So now what I want to do in this pan that has all this beautiful seasoning in it, we're going to put those zucchini and corn that we did. And this, I'm okay roasting this on a very high temperature for a short amount of time. So I want to get all of this corn out of here because then I'm going to put my pasta into this bowl. Because I think the less bowls, the better. So I'm going to pop this into the oven. I'm going to set my timer for about 8 minutes. I'm going to toss it, and I'm going to go back in for another 8 minutes. So I don't want to lose any of that corn. So now we can go ahead and in our bowl here, put our orzo and those beautiful, beautiful tomatoes. Billy came in a minute ago and he said, "Oh, it smells so good in here." They really do smell good. And then they just are so, so pretty. So while our corn and zucchini is roasted, we can get on with our dressing. So again, in here, we have our shallot, our garlic, and just a 1/4 cup of those tomatoes. And we're going to give them a couple whirls. I want to get them nice and blended up. And into this, we are going to add a tablespoon of a spicy brown or a Dijon mustard. You can even go whole grain. I just went spicy brown. A tablespoon of honey. I love honey. One of my favorite things. I think I eat too much of it. I don't know if that's a thing, if you can eat too much. But if there is, I can do it. So, 5 pepper blend. A few good twirls. And, of course, our kosher salt. We'll give that a good pinch. And then I want some lemon juice. But while I have this lemon, I'm going to go ahead and zest the zest into my salad. And that way I use the whole lemon. So I'm going to zest it and then I'm going to juice it into there. And I think nothing brightens up a dish more than lemon. It just really brightens it up. So I'm going to zest this lemon into, and drop it into there again. It's just one of those days, you know, you can't hold on to things. The grill runs out of propane. You cut your hand. But for me, I'm in the galley, so I'm still happy. I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. So, we've got that lemon zested in there. And then we're going to do the juice into our dressing. And this is just really going to help balance this, and it's going to just help brighten it up and just make it really bright. So then I want to add some red wine vinegar. And I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. You could do balsamic here, but I feel like it's a little heavy for this summer dish. If you didn't have the red wine, you could do a cider if you wanted to. But red wine, balsamic, and cider, they're always on my boat. I always have all three. So, when you're making a vinaigrette, the classic ratio of oil to vinegar is 3 to 1. So 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. So I did a 1/4 cup. So that would mean 3/4 cup of oil. But I'm going to do a whole cup of oil because I've got all that lemon juice too. So this is going to be able to withstand all of that oil. But I'm not going to do all of the same oil. I'm going to do half olive oil and half vegetable oil. You can completely use all olive oil if you want to. But I think olive oil gets overpowering. And especially when you're talking about a half a cup of it, then I think that it really just overpowers. So we're not doing the traditional 3-to-1. We've kind of changed it up, and we're doing a quarter a cup and a half a cup of oil. And then we can taste and come back and add some oil if we think we need to. But I would rather do that than put all the oil in and then it just be oversaturated, over oiled, and overpowering. So what you want to do is very slowly add your oil in so that it emulsifies into a dressing. So let's give this a... So we've got all that stuff just all mixed up. It's ready for our oil, and we're just going to go on low speed and very slowly add this half a cup of oil, and then we'll see if we need to come back for more. So we've got all that oil incorporated in there, and it made a beautiful, beautiful dressing. And I think this is going to be just fantastic in our pasta. Now I'm going to taste it, and I just have a feeling that we've put enough oil in there. Yes. I think we have just enough oil. So we've got our Orzo pasta, and again, I just love Orzo. You know, you can use it to make a casserole, and it just soaks up all of that flavor. You can use it in soups. You can use it in pasta salads, and it just really absorbs flavor. And we've got the zest of that lemon in there. And I am going to go in with all of my dressing. Now, as you know, with most all, especially pasta salads, the day before is ideal because they've had a chance to sit and just really all those flavors come together and marry. But I'm going to take this to our friend Char tonight for her naming of her boat celebration. And it'll have a couple hours to sit and cool down. And I think she's going to just love it. So now all we need to do is wait for that corn and zucchini to come out of the oven. We'll let it cool down just a hit. I don't want to put it in here super hot and get that pasta cooking again. So we're going to pull that zucchini and corn out of the oven. We're going to let it cool down, and we're going to add it to our pasta salad. So luckily, I've got the oven turned off, so it can start to cool back down in here. But my corn and my zucchini are out, and you can see how beautiful they look. I've let them cool down and straight into that pasta salad. And I'm happy that the oven's off. But there's going to be enough of this pasta salad to save some from Billy and I, plus take some to Char as a nice hostess gift. And I love giving fresh, homemade hostess gifts. And we'll get this stirred up and taste it. So we're almost done here. We're going to put the finishing touches, and that is some crumbled up feta. I have 2 ounces of feta that I'm going to crumble in here. This is another reason I didn't think it needed a ton of salt added, because this is going to really give you that hit of salt. So this is going to taste so much better when it cools down and when it sits for a while. But I'm ready to have a taste now. So beautiful. It's so fresh. It's just so summertime. So I want some zucchini, I want some feta, I want tomato, and I want corn, and I want orzo. So I have it all in this one perfect bite. That corn is so fresh. You taste the freshness in that corn. And the zucchini still held on to. It's got a bit of a tooth fill. It didn't get real soft and mushy. It still has a bit of firmness to it. Those tomatoes, they're like candy. And then you get that little bit of salt from that feta. A beautiful summer salad. Hope you enjoyed making it with us today. And until next time, safe cruising.